So we're going to be discussing how to prepare for a Chevening Scholarship. So look at best practices and common pitfalls that most applicants come across when you're doing your Chevening application. So we'll begin with some of the best practices. Like Dr. Kwacho already said, Chevening is grounded on these 4 areas of influence. We have the leadership and influence. Chevening is looking for a leader who does not come to portray job titles, but Chevening is looking for people who have impact, who take initiative, and is looking to see how you drive the change. So first we have these 4 areas: leadership and influence. We have your networking skills and abilities. We have your academic background and your career plan. So what is Chevening looking for I've discussed leadership, in networking? You need to demonstrate how you build and you use relationships strategically. We'll discuss that further. And also in terms of academic background, and undergraduate degrees, okay, it's imperative, but if you have postgraduates with Chevening, as for your career plans, you need to show Chevening why you're choosing the course that you're choosing, and how this supports the future impact that you as an individual will have in your home country. And in our case, we have Cameroon. So the first thing is that it's good to start preparing for your application early. You could begin or opens, or the window opens. During this preparatory phase, whether you're preparing or you're updating your CV, it's essential. Reflect, think of your leadership, think of stories about yourself that you can talk. It could be stories from your work, from the communities. You need to think through and see what is your best experience, or what is the best examples that you have that can.
Quels sont les meilleurs exemples que vous pouvez mettre en avant pour démontrer votre leadership? Vous devez également être capable de démontrer que vous avez une liste de réseaux, des relations professionnelles. Quelles sont ces relations-là et comment est-ce qu'elles peuvent être utiles à vous-même et aux autres? Il faudrait également penser à votre plan de carrière. Il faudrait le faire à partir de
0 to 2 years after you leave the UK. What do you envisage? Where do you see yourself? How would you be engaged? Thinking mid-term, 3 to 5 years, what would happen? And think long-term, within the 5 and 10 years, 5 to 10 years after you have your degree from the UK, what will happen? So these are all good reflections. Now, how you choose your courses? Yes, look for eligible programs. 3, it should be a 1-year full-time program. It should be a third master's. It should align with your career, and it should be either from 3 different universities or 3 different courses at the same university. So I think I'll just flag this here. When questions come, I think Dr. Kwacho is there. We're going to answer you. Now, when you're choosing your courses, it's good to first do your research. Each time you come across a course that is of interest to you, look at the modules. What are the modules in the quality? What is it that they have? What is it that is of interest to you? Look at practical opportunities for you. For example, are there clinics? Is placement available for your program? Are there research group that you think you would like to engage in when you go to the UK? Think of how your course fits with your national is key. We'll discuss that later. Now, when you, okay, yes. Now, when you're looking at building your leadership and networking examples in your application, the strong advice that we'll always give applicants is to use the STAR method. Whenever you have to discuss a circumstance of leadership or of networking, you should always be able to describe the situation, the circumstance of your leadership, the circumstance of your networking. So that's the situation. What task did you as an individual have? So it's important not to be saying we had a mission to go to whichever place. And yes, you had a mission, but what were you as an individual doing? And what was the action? What was the task to you as an individual? What was the action that you took in that circumstance, and what was the result? So first of all, use real stories, whether it's from your workplace, it's from the community. I think I discussed that previously, but maybe we could have practical examples of STAR method if we have a question coming up. I will hold it there for now. In terms of writing your essay, there are 4 areas of assessment, I would say, that Chevening has, whether it's for the essay writing, whether it's for the interview. Chevening looks at you from the perspective of leadership and influence, networking, career plan, and study in the UK. So, like we discussed previously, you should use real impact stories. And in your writing, it's good to always quantify your results where possible. Quantify them, qualify them. Show that your future vision ties with the national priorities of Cameroon. So it is important for you to look at what are the development priorities of Cameroon. We have the 2025 goal. Now, in your different sectors, there are different goals that Cameroon has. It's important for you to know, under the sector where you're working, what are the priorities of Cameroon? What are the specific issues that are discussed under that development plan? And also, also link that with UK's interest and UK's priorities in Cameroon. It's very important for you to make that link and see where you locate yourself, because that is what gives you value, and that is what makes you an important actor in UK's future relationship with the leadership of Cameroon. So in your narrative, be clear on who you are, be clear on what you've done, be clear on where you're going and how you think you fit into the Chevening community, into the goals of the UK's strategic engagement with Cameroon, and see how to link them with that of the UK. Now, how does your strength or your ambition link with the UK's strength? I would say in terms of academic excellence, in terms of research, policy, governance, innovation. How do you fit into that picture when we have to discuss UK and Cameroon, even from your own sector? So think about that and get your essay reviewed, preferably by an alumni, any alumnus that you can reach, and get feedback. Because sometimes we have good experience, we have a lot of impact, but we do not know how to write it down, and we sometimes miss it. But when you get feedback, it helps you. And I've seen people get maybe even up to 3 or more reviews so that they could sit down and really see things differently. Now, Chevening requires that you should have 2 referees. So it's important to know how you choose who to write about your work and leadership. So don't go for a family member or a friend. Go for somebody who can speak to your skills, and who can speak to your skills within a context. Remember, we talked of the STAR method. If you could write about your leadership and your networking at your school within a context, you should have a recommender who can have a specific context to demonstrate how you have worked. So it's not somebody who just knows you, that these guys led. And I would personally always recommend line management reference, because your supervisor, in most cases, can speak to circumstances that he or she has seen you demonstrate leadership and he can have rules of greater action even for studies. So think of somebody who is reliable, who is responsive, and always ask your recommenders that you would like them to write a reference for you in advance. So you don't wait for the last minute to just come to them and say you need a reference. So yeah, that is it. So that's a bit of some, just discuss a few pitfalls. So sometimes we use generic leadership stories in application, and that does not work. For instance, you want to discuss impact. Instead of discussing impact, you say, I participated in I would say workshop, or I participated in an advocacy that was meant to do this. Then you describe the advocacy. So it's so wonderful, but that is not you. So you did not really put your role in it. Now, do not copy examples from the internet, because Chevening uses the plagiarism detection. So they would always know if you're writing from it is your writing, yes. So do not list achievements without context. I think I've talked about that before. Always tell a story with a clear result within a circumstance. Do not choose causes that you cannot defend. They must logically lead to your goal. So one of the things applicants do at times is that, for example, your experience is in management, and now you're choosing a Chevening course that has to do with, I don't know, what should I say, medicines. I'll just take an example like that. And you're not able to even defend how you've prepared yourself to study medicines. So how have you prepared yourself to study medicines? How do you think, what has prompted you to make a shift in your sector, moving from what you were doing to the other, which is it's a big risk even for applicants. So please do not do that. It's even risky. I would not advise that, but in case you have to do that, it must be strategic. Otherwise, trust me, you lose that application. Other pitfalls we have: don't give unclear and unrealistic plans. So let your plans align with Cameroon's development agenda, and it should be achievable. So don't say things that you cannot do. Don't say, in the next 2 years, I'm going to have 300, entrepreneurs trained and working, and they have their businesses that I'm coaching. No, when you say like that, it's what I call a low self-efficacy. So you have little awareness of your capacity and little awareness of what you can achieve. Next, do not submit weak references. So do not, at the last moment, you just get a reference from anybody. You can just lay hands on somebody who can give you a quick reference, you give. And references that are not management references, I always say, are weak. Because in most cases, those references or reference letters lack the context to demonstrate your leadership. Okay, don't ignore networking. So that's why previously we said take stock of your networks. So they might look small to you, but some behaviors build with time. So if you show how you can build relationships in different contexts, it also shows how you can grow within a Chevening community, which is global, which is in Cameroon also. So do not apply with a confused or unfocused profile. So when your profile itself is not clear and does not have one story, trust me, you make it nowhere. And everyone is not the same. So one of the things I always advise, everyone is not very skilled at that, is that you should, it could be, maybe just my style, but I think I've seen others do it. Have a what I call a balanced application from the time you write all your 4 essays. Everything about you should be seen in the flow when you're discussing leadership. It's the same it's the same writing style, it's the same presentation. So the thinking process is the same. When you move to networking, it doesn't show a different personality. When you go to career or education, it's the same. And sometimes there's this temptation of receiving feedback from so many people, and you just gather ideas from the different people and you put them together in your application. Trust me, when anybody is reading your application, the thinking frame, the line of thought keeps changing, and that would be disadvantageous for you. Now, we are considering now that if you make it to the next stage, that you've applied and you've been successful or you've been shortlisted for interview, what should you do? So you should already start thinking of have a mastery of your essay. What did you say? How did you say it? What was the context? And make sure you can defend it. Well, it would be helpful to practice common questions as to, well, tell me about yourself. There are different ways to respond to this. I don't want to talk about that now. What is your biggest leadership achievement? Why this specific university in the UK? Why not another? Why not this? Yes, how you contribute to Cameroon?
Comment est-ce que vous pourrez contribuer au développement du pays, votre pays qui est le Cameroun, après cette bourse, et garder un ton conversationnel et ne mémorisez pas vos réponses. Alors, des choses à ne pas faire.
Or indication that you don't know what you're doing and how you're doing, you're just trying things.
Ne changez pas votre récit. N'exagérez pas vos acquis. Alors, vos acquis
about your country or your workplace in the interview, that might not play in your advantage. Yes, so maybe we should take note of the application timeline for those who have applied this year. So the application opened in August, closed in November, and you see from November, applicants, our applications are shifted against eligibility criteria. So this is something very important. I often tell people that if we take 2,000 applicants from Cameroon, by the time they shift, Cameroon might only have space. You saw Dr. Kwacho said in their year there were only 2. So imagine that if there were 2,000 applicants, Cameroon can only be offered 2 spaces. Or let's take that Cameroon can only be offered 15 spaces. So by the time they shift and they are at 1,000 applicants that have been selected from the 2,000 or 2,500, you might see that all of the 1,000 applicants meet the minimum requirement for Chevening. When they shift to 500 still has applicants who have really significant profiles, but now there is only space for 15. And now they need to select up to maybe, or let's take it that they bring it down even to 200. They need about 50 persons for interview. And even when they go down to 2,000, you need to see that you can still stand. So you see that sometimes you're disqualified along the process, not because you're not good, but because there are stronger profiles you're competing with. And imagine that at the end, there could be 50, 60, or maybe less number of persons that will be called for interview. And imagine that they have to keep, shifting the number of applicants. So they need to keep making a short list. So the question is, do I stay until the list is up to 50, like in Dr. Kwacho's case? So now I continue by mid-November to December. You see that through this period, there is this shortlisting that is going on. And by early to mid-February, we have the applicants that are shortlisted for interview are announced, and then you see they are calling them. And by this same February, you see that those who are shortlisted are asked to send their reference documents and are given a deadline. And the interviews take place from February to April, depending on the country. So you should expect interviews to happen anytime from then. And by June, you have the announcement of who are the successful applicants for the scholarship. And then those who are on the waiting list also might be informed. They will be informed, and then those who need to apply for the next year will also have the rejection letters. And you see the last criteria by July now have to do with showing that you who has been selected meets the final criteria for you to receive the award, your offer letters and whatsoever. And in September, you start. So I think that is it. Final tips that I can share again or just run down is that you should be authentic, use powerful or concrete examples in your writing and speaking, connect everything to impact in your home country, choose courses that truly match your profile, review your essays many times. It helps you to have clarity, and start early. So don't wait for the last week. By the last week of the application, you should have finished. Yes, you should have submitted your application. So I think that is it. I would say aim high, prepare well, and trust your journey into becoming a Chevening Scholar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patience. This was just a lot of information, and I hope our participants are learning a great deal. So at this moment, I will still invite Dr. Monique and Patience so that they can share with us their life experience. What was it like being a Chevening Scholar, moving into the scholarship program, and also moving graduating from the program itself? So I think since we've heard a lot already from Patience, maybe we would invite Dr. Monique to come on to share with us her experience as a Chevening Scholar, and maybe after the program.
Okay. Again, I have to say this happened over 10 years ago. I can't believe it said over 10 years, but it happened over 10 years ago. So my experience is from a different era or a different decade. But it was my first time going to the UK. It was a life-changing experience for me because I would say I chose the right school. And I feel like people don't talk enough about that. I know another scholar who was my schoolmate. We were in the same school together. And he wasn't on Chevening Scholarship. He was on a different scholarship. He was on an institutional scholarship for that university. And he hated it. Because what was offered, what he thought the program was about is not what the program was about. So it's really, really important to make sure that you've done your research on your program, that you know why you want it, and you know that's what you want. I mean, do background checks on your lecturers. If there are those people that you really know, this is going to help me in my career, to propel my career, because what you're using, what Chevening is about, what the scholarship is about, is to propel you forward. You are using it as a tool. It's supposed to be strategic. Okay. You're not just, don't just say, okay, I'm going to UK to go and study and then come back, or not come back, or look for another way. So you're supposed to be strategic with it, because even throughout the course of the fellowship, the Chevening Secretariat sends out invitations. Would you want to be part of this talk? We're having this engagement where we are bringing together fellows. They usually send you an email and say something like, Global Education Forum is happening. We noticed that you are studying education. If you're interested in attending the Global Education Forum, make your request known by this and this date. So they're trying to position you to have opportunities to network more with other people outside of the Chevening network, but like within a global network, you understand? So they usually send those calls. It could be for things like a forum, that you being a Chevening Fellow, they have 2 spots, or they're organizing events itself. The Chevening Forum, the Chevening Secretariat will organize events and bring together fellows from different places and people from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to discuss the political situation in your country, what they think you need, what you think they need. It's a kind of way in which to involve Chevening Fellows in global discussions, and also to kind of see who it is that has this leadership potential. So you should obviously make use of that, because it's a way of you being strategic and making yourself known. I would say, what my experience was life-changing in part to me, because I feel like, yes, I knew my program. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew exactly why I wanted to do it, and that degree program was beneficial to changing. I did to a career change for me. I did women and gender studies and sociology, but I was trying to go into using education in particular for social justice. So to be able to use gender, sociology, and education to merge that, I did education, gender, and international development. So for my master's, and to be able to work with people that are like number one in the field, have them as your mentors, have them as your supervisor, be able to get recommendation letters from them. That was what was life-changing for me, because the person that I worked with, that was my supervisor, my personal tutor at my master's, would recommend me for my PhD in South Africa. So, and that's the story for many Chevening Fellows, that their master supervisors eventually became their PhD supervisors or recommended them for their PhDs. So it's really like, it's crucial for you to be strategic during that time, that you're going in with I know what I want to do next. And now I need you to be able to help me to get there. Because if you don't know exactly what you want to do, nobody can help you. But at least have an idea, and then the person could be like, okay, this is how I can help, or this is what I think you should do. But if you're just going in blind, that's a problem. If you go to that, if you can go to the slide where I put do's and don'ts, like things that worked and things that didn't. I was trying to think about the experience. Like I said, it's 10 years ago. So I'm trying to think about what I really could say, how the experience was. They give you the orientation at the start and to prepare you for things like culture shock, prepare you for, they remind you about being very careful not to be caught plagiarizing, things that will make you lose your scholarship, lose your admission into the school, you then lose your scholarship. They remind you of things like not to stay out of the country for so long, because you have only 30 days allowed out of the country. I don't even know if it's less than 30 days. Allow out of the country while you're on the scholarship, and that includes holidays. So I had to be very strategic to make sure that I was doing my fieldwork in Cameroon within 2 weeks, and then I went over my 30 days. I was doing fieldwork in Cameroon within 2 weeks, and then I had a Mandela Fellowship in 2015. So I also had to. And after you go beyond the 30 days, you start reducing money from your allowance, because you're no longer the cost of living is what calculates your allowance. So they cut it out from there. But I will not change that, because you actually have to be strategic again. The Mandela Fellowship was also life-changing for me. So once you're saying, okay, I'm going to travel, you have to actually say, what am I going to travel for? Is it important enough to be able to sacrifice the fact that they're going to cut a bit of your allowance out? For me, I stress upon the fact that you should engage widely. Engage widely. My university was international. Institute of Education was international. So I have friends from all African countries, as many as possible, and Middle Eastern countries, Southeast Asia, China, mainland China. Engage widely. There's a reason why. Honestly, you get why? Because there are certain things that you will find that are only within if you're limiting yourself to your circle, you'll find that people are doing the same things. But when you engage widely, you start seeing different routes that people can take, different career paths that you can take. Like in that class, you have people that are going back to government ministry jobs. You have people that are going back to work in the INGL sector. You have people that have been consulting all their lives. You have people that are still confused. They don't know what next. So engaging widely will give you more options. It will also mean that your classmate, who might not be even the smartest person in class, but because that person is coming from a government ministry job in India or in Pakistan and has a certain position, that person could be the one that will write your life-changing recommendation letter. Even the other person is your classmate. So it might not always be your supervisor. That's a recommendation letter for you. You can get a recommendation letter from your peer. And that peer might be at a position that you are not at. Mind the fact that you're classmates in class, yes, but they are not your mates. So you need to engage widely to be able to benefit from things like this. Engage. Another thing I find, and this, I might be speaking from a place of privilege, because I know that I went there as a single person without a family. I did not have any weight on me. I was on a full scholarship. So it might not be the case for other people that have to send money back home more than I did. But I would say that I found that a lot of people that struggled were those that were taking extra jobs. You have on the Chevening Scholarship 20 hours to work, at least in my time. I don't know about now, but in my time you have 20 hours a week of work. You cannot work more than 20 hours a week because you're on a student visa. So whilst you're doing two jobs, there are people that I noticed that were doing full-time jobs, making money, obviously, and going to school the school was kind of like on the side, and then struggling because of that. Because they were doing that full-time job and the school, they didn't have time to do the networking that was strategic for their career progression. Were they making money in the now? Yes. And which is necessary if you have to know exactly what you need, which is necessary for sending money back home, for what exactly you want to save for. But you need that time to network. You need that time to be a student, to be known, to build that repertoire if you're trying to be strategic about future opportunities. Unless you think that your future opportunities is going to be the side gig that you're doing. So you have to actually think about that. It's a tough decision to make. I understand that sometimes, like I said, it could be a matter of privilege and not having enough. I would say another thing that worked for me, I think people don't get it, and I really stress this a lot. You have 1 year to be in the UK. This might be the first time that you're going to a G7 country. That counts as, that weighs a lot in terms of visa strength. So you having a UK visa might mean that you'll be able to get easily an EU visa. And you can build your travel history. It was at this time, while they're on the UK visa, while they're on this Chevening Scholarship, that I took a school field trip. The school organized a field trip, and I went on the school field trip to Paris. But because I've gotten that EU visa, I have that in my travel history, that I have gone to this place and I have come back. So use that. Those are strategies that you can use to build your travel history as well. Because you're no longer seen as a threat. Nobody's going to run the EU when they're already doing a scholarship in the UK. So use those to navigate them. Be strategic about that. Other tips, I would say, you know what might be useful to you, to your career. Aside from getting a degree, what else can be useful to actually put you on a map? In my case, I am multiple things. So I used, aside from getting my degree, I paid while I was there. For my savings, I paid for a writing program, a creative writing program, to get a certification from City University. I will never be able to say I've gone for an MFA or a master's, an MA in creative writing that makes me a writer. You're a writer because you write. But I wanted that experience of a creative writing program, so I went for this certified course. For people that are doing accounting, it might be a great opportunity for you to get an accounting certificate. If it's short-term, 2 months or something, computerized accounting certificate from the UK, which might count better than getting it from Cameroon. So use that opportunity to maximize, to add all the things that you can potentially add, because the truth is, it's not like these universities or these institutions are that great. It's just the way the world is set up to favor global north institutions, because let me not lie, it's not that great. What is great is the networking. I have studied in three different countries between bachelor's and PhD. And the PhD I did in essay in South Africa was much better. I had an offer for Sussex. And let me tell you, even the person in Sussex told me, go to SA. Because when you have so many people coming from different countries, so many people, your lecturers are all the big names and the big shots that have to hold multiple, they're editor of Cambridge Trust, they're on the board of this one. If they're doing all of that, how much time do they have to supervise students to guide them in a coherent manner? They don't. So what usually happens is the network has to come through, because you're not getting that much time with your supervisor, you're not getting that much time with your teachers. It's more casual than you people think. It's not as formal as we have had here, that you can always say you go and meet your teacher in the office at this time. You probably have 30 minutes with them every month. But in South Africa, I had better, I would say, because I had that community was more Ubuntu in that they tried their best comparatively. That does not say, I'm not saying that these universities are bad. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that temper your expectations so that you do not go and be disappointed. Temper your expectations. What you usually get is that the network is rich, the space for networking is rich, the resources that are available to you are more. You have a vast library that you will not be able to potentially use. You have access to all the journals that you could use. You have a whole department to support you for academic writing. So if your writing is not as good, you can go and say, please, I need help. And somebody is there employed to help you with that. Not your lecturer. There's an academic counseling. If you need counseling, you have counseling service offered to you. So these are the resources that you have that makes these universities good. Is these additional services, not necessarily that they have more knowledge than you. Okay, so I'll leave that for now. If you have specific questions on the experience, on potential of working. Okay, mind you, note that I said I don't encourage the idea of the full-time working unless you really have to. But it's also worth noting that you can go and volunteer. So for example, if you want to work for INGL sector after your work, and I volunteered for peer-to-peer education program. You can go and volunteer for, let's say, Oxfam, and you have that on your CV. That I've worked for Oxfam for 2 months in the UK. So even if it's that you're working at the Oxfam branch, for, let's say, charity shop, I bet you have that on your CV, and you can actually have some kind of way to sell yourself through that. So use that opportunity to the max. Okay. Patience, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moni. Yes, Patience, over to you.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'll just say a few things, because most of the things that Dr. Monique has said, it's common anyway. So in terms of my experience for Chevening, when the scholarship was given to me, it came with joy and sadness, in the sense that I had the scholarship for Chevening. I had admission into a school that I had tried 6 years previously. In 2012, I tried to go to SOAS, I could not go. I was told that I do not qualify for such an institution at the University of London, because even UK citizens have difficulties entering into this university. And I was not from a privileged home in Cameroon. So you're not from one privilege or, high class, as they will say, and you're going to SOAS. SOAS is so high class, as I said, because it's a key university in the UK. So when I had the admission and I had sponsorship for Chevening, and I had a daughter. I was married with a daughter. I called 18 months. So she was 1 year, 6 months old. So for me, I felt like whether I should defer my place, the Chevening Award for the next year, or I should go with my daughter or I should leave her behind. So finally, I went without my daughter, and it was a bit tough for me. So it was mixed feelings all through. And I never had a working experience in the UK because I was dealing with a lot. But I could not work for any, I didn't work for 0 hour. I could not work, but I had other engagements. And I also, in terms of what would be my high, when I had my article selected for publication in the SOAS Law Journal, for me, it meant a lot. It meant a lot because I noticed that in the university, even for your article to be selected was, I think we're about 5 articles selected from the law school. The rest were PhD students, I think. So for the article to have been selected when I knew I was struggling with a lot and I could write and I could submit an article and it selected and I had to publish, it was a wow moment for me. And though I think you talked about highs and low, the low I had was the fact that during my time in the UK, I mean, all the, the Chevening experience, you see what Dr. Monique has talked on. I had an accident and I broke my wrist. And it was at the time when we were about writing our dissertation and I was sick. So that period was very difficult for me. And that was the same period that I had to write this article that was selected for publication with one hand because I could only type with one hand. So I worked with one hand. I typed that article. I kept working on it just with one hand. I submitted it and it was selected. So it was, like I said, my whole experience was mixed feeling. So I think that's a bit of it. The rest is what Dr. Monique has said, and I think we can ride on to questions. Thank you, and over.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know it's past, but maybe I should still say I'm so sorry that you had to go through that sort of a challenge. And again, congratulations on, being selected, on having your article selected. And thank you again, Dr. Monique, for sharing your experience. I smiled all through because, it was interesting. It was filled with a lot of fun, but also just a lot to learn from it. And I think that colleagues in the chat or participants are learning from this experience, not just speaking the fun side of it, but also learning the lessons from it. So before we move on to questions, very briefly, patients have taken us through the do's and the don'ts. And you would imagine at the moment that if you've been doing some of those don'ts, it could have landed you somewhere else. Today afternoon, somebody wrote to me and told me she's applied for over 3 times and she hasn't been selected. So she doesn't even know if she should continue with the process anymore. Yet, on our guest list, we have 2 colleagues who've also been on this journey for a very long period of time. I call them stories of resilience because some people would face a challenge once and let go of it. But they've been hanging on. They've still not succeeded and they aren't giving up either. These are some of the reasons why we decided to bring them on to today's session to share what their experiences have been like. So I would by this invite, start off with Henry to share with us what is it that has kept you going regardless of the setbacks. Are there any lessons that you've learned through this process, and are there any you will be applying moving forward? So over to you.